Put her in the car, and don't turn around, Ethan said. I was 10 feet away in the after-school pickup lane, stuck mid-step, watching my 7-year-old daughter Zoe get steered toward my mother-in-law's SUV like she was luggage. Marjorie's hand was locked on Zoe's shoulder, too tight for comfort, too practiced for love. Zoe twisted to look for me. When she found me, her face brightened, then collapsed when she saw Ethan standing beside his mom instead of beside us. "Mom?" she whispered. Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes. He popped the trunk like this was a routine errand. That was the moment I knew my child wasn't safe because the 2 adults who were supposed to protect her were moving her like property. "Zoe, stop!" I said, loud enough that the teacher by the door looked up. "Come to me. Now." Marjorie smiled, like she was hosting a bake sale. "Maya, please don't cause a scene in front of the children." A scene. Like my daughter being taken was my manners problem. Zoe's bottom lip quivered. "Am I in trouble?" "No," I said, forcing my voice calm. "You did nothing wrong." Marjorie leaned down, voice syrupy. "Sweetie, we're going to keep you somewhere quiet for a while, just until Mommy settles." Zoe's eyes went wide. "What?" I stepped forward. Marjorie slid her body between us, still smiling, still blocking. "Honey, you agreed." I snapped my gaze to Ethan. "Agreed to what?" His throat bobbed. "It's temporary. 2 weeks. Mom's lawyer said it's better if Zoe stays with her while things cool off." "Cool off?" I repeated. "I asked you to stop letting your mother insult me. That's what you're calling things?" Zoe grabbed my leg. "I want you." Marjorie patted Zoe's hair like she was calming a dog. "Big girls don't cling." I felt something inside me go cold. "Let go of her." Marjorie sighed. "We have paperwork, Maya. Paperwork." Ethan pulled an envelope from his jacket and held it out to the school security officer who drifted closer. "This gives my mom authority," he said, voice shaky. "It's signed." The officer glanced down, then at me. "Ma'am, do you have documentation?" My mouth went dry. I had a marriage license, a birth certificate at home. What I had in that moment was my daughter trembling and a notary stamp being used like a weapon. Zoe whispered, "Daddy, please." Ethan stared at the floor. The officer looked uncomfortable. "We can step inside and verify." Inside the office, fluorescent lights made everyone look guilty. Zoe sat in a plastic chair, clutching her backpack like a life raft. Marjorie chatted with the receptionist about traffic. Ethan hovered at the wall like he wished he could disappear. The document was real enough to cause chaos. Temporary guardianship, up to 14 days, and a line that made my stomach drop. Due to mother's emotional instability, I stared at Ethan. "You let your mom write that about me?" His eyes flashed with defensive pain. "You've been intense. Intense. That's what they call you when you don't smile through disrespect." Zoe's voice cracked. "I don't want Grandma's house." Marjorie kept her tone soft, almost kind. "Zoe, remember what we practiced." "Practiced." My skin prickled. "You don't practice taking a child unless you plan to do it." I knelt in front of Zoe. "Baby, look at me. Has Grandma given you anything today? Any candy? Any vitamins?" Zoe blinked slow. "She put something in my snack pocket. She said it helps me sleep because I cry." I froze. I opened the front pocket of Zoe's backpack. A small, white prescription bottle sat there like a threat. Marjorie's smile didn't move. "It's just to help her rest tonight." I turned to Ethan. "You let her medicate our child?" Ethan went pale. "It's not. It's just Mom," said the doctor. "What doctor?" I snapped. "When did Zoe see a doctor without me?" Marjorie's eyes sharpened. "Maya, you're spiraling. That's why Zoe needs stability." The officer stepped closer. "Ma'am, whose prescription is that?" I flipped the bottle. Zoe's name. Her birth date. A pharmacy across town I'd never used. My hands shook, but my voice stayed low. Zoe is leaving with me. Right now. Marjorie's fingers reached for Zoe's wrist quick, possessive. Zoe flinched away. The officer lifted a hand. No one is leaving until we confirm what this medication is and who authorized it. Marjorie's smile finally cracked at the edges. Of course. Confirm. We have nothing to hide. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. One line. Drop Zoe off tonight, or we file the emergency order. My stomach went hollow, because if they already had an emergency order ready, this wasn't 2 weeks. This was them trying to take my daughter for good. Zoe fell asleep on the couch at home, still in her school dress, one shoe dangling off. I sat at the kitchen table with that bottle in front of me like it could bite. I called the pharmacy listed on the label. The woman asked for Zoe's full name, then paused. Yes, that was picked up yesterday. By who? I asked. I'm not supposed to. I'm her mother. I cut in. Tell me. Another pause, quieter now. Pickup name was Marjorie Carter. My throat tightened. And Zoe was seen by the doctor? She wasn't, the woman admitted. It was called in. Called in. For a 7-year-old. By someone who wasn't her parent. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the wall until the buzzing in my ears turned into one clear thought. Marjorie wasn't helping. She was testing how much she could control. Ethan didn't come home. At 6:07 p.m., he texted, I'm at Mom's. We'll talk tomorrow. Please don't do anything crazy. Crazy! That was the label. If I panicked, they'd point at my panic as proof. At 6:10 p.m., Marjorie texted, Zoe is sensitive to conflict. If you loved her, you'd let her stay with us. If you loved her. Like love meant handing my kid over to the woman who slipped her pills. I didn't reply. I went to the hallway closet where I kept Zoe's documents. The folder was there. The birth certificate wasn't. Neither was her social security card. I sat down hard on the floor, the empty folder in my lap, and felt the air drain out of my lungs. Because those documents don't go missing. They get taken. I checked the key rack by the door. Ethan's spare key was gone. My mind started stacking facts like bricks. The notarized guardianship, the medication, the missing documents, the text about an emergency order. They weren't improvising. They were executing. I opened our shared email account. Ethan always said transparency mattered, right up until it didn't. I searched custody, guardianship, school. 3 emails popped up in the trash. He didn't even delete them properly. One was from a family law office, draft petition for temporary custody. The second was from a private investigator company, intake questionnaire, a private investigator, for me. The third email made my stomach flip. Enrollment confirmation, Brookstone Academy, a private school 2 hours away, 10 minutes from Marjorie's house. Start date, Monday. They weren't giving Zoe a break. They were moving her. Zoe stirred in her sleep and mumbled, Daddy said you're mad at me. I leaned over her and smoothed her hair. No, baby, I whispered. Never you. That's the cruelest part of family betrayal. Adults start using a child as a messenger before the child even understands the war. I called my mom. She answered on the second ring like she'd been waiting for my voice to crack. She arrived in sweatpants and a hoodie, took one look at the bottle and the empty folder, and said, Okay, we get a lawyer tonight. Her calm made me feel less crazy. We found Dana through a friend of my mom's. Dana sounded sharp, tired, and unshakable like she'd watched too many families try to play cute with custody. You need an emergency motion in the morning, she said, and you need a custodial alert at the school. No pickup by anyone but you, with ID. And the missing documents, I asked. Assume they plan to travel, Dana said. People do illegal things when they're convinced they're right. In Wivgamdo, my mom and I changed the deadbolt ourselves at 11 p.m. Because Ethan's key wasn't just missing, it was a weapon now. Zoe woke up from the noise and shuffled into the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Are we locking out Grandma? We're locking out anyone who doesn't listen to you, I told her. Zoe looked down at her toes. Grandma said at her house I'm not allowed to cry, and I can't call you because it makes Daddy weak. My mom made a sound behind me like a growl. I crouched to Zoe's level. You are allowed to cry, I said, slow and clear. And you can always ask for me. Always. She nodded like she was storing that sentence for later. After Zoe went back to bed, my mom pointed at a detail I hadn't been able to name all day. Did you see her car seat? She asked. Marjorie's SUV had a brand new booster seat in the back. Tags still on it. Not dust, not old, new. Marjorie didn't buy that for a weekend. She bought that for a move. So I made one quiet move of my own before the sun came up. Ethan had been finalizing a new mortgage, something he'd been vague about for months. I was listed as co-signer because he needed my credit to qualify, and the closing was set for Friday. A house 2 streets from Marjorie, with Zoe. I logged into the lender portal and clicked Withdraw Consent. Then I emailed the loan officer. I revoke my signature effective immediately. Do not proceed. No yelling. No threats. Just a clean stop. 2 minutes later, Ethan called. I watched his name light up my screen and let it ring out, because the first time I spoke to him again, I wanted words I wouldn't regret. Dana texted right after. Hearing set for tomorrow 9 a.m. They may attempt pickup before then. If you're still here with me, hit like and subscribe because what happened next flipped everything I thought I knew about my own marriage. And that night, when my doorbell camera flashed motion detected, my heart already knew whose face I was about to see. Marjorie stood on my porch at 2:13 a.m. in a beige trench coat like she was auditioning for Concerned Grandmother. Ethan hovered behind her, eyes hollow, holding a folder. I didn't open the door. I spoke through the camera speaker. Go home. Marjorie smiled right into the lens. Maya, we need to talk. I brought a revised agreement. Sign it and we won't do this the hard way. The hard way? I repeated. Don't be childish, she said, sweet as poison. Behind me, my mom was already dialing 911. She didn't ask. She just did it. I kept my voice even. You have 30 seconds to leave. Marjorie's smile twitched. The police won't help you. Ethan is Zoe's father. I said Ethan's name, like a rope thrown to a drowning man. If you're her father, walk away from this porch. Ethan's eyes lifted to the camera. For a second, I saw him, the man who used to dance with Zoe in the kitchen. Then Marjorie murmured something I couldn't hear, and his face went blank again. Fine, Marjorie snapped, suddenly not sweet. She grabbed Ethan's sleeve and marched him back to the SUV. Right before she got in, she looked back at the camera and mouthed, See you. At 7:15 a.m., I called Zoe's school and put the custodial alert in place. The receptionist lowered her voice. A woman called yesterday asking about transferring Zoe's records, she whispered. Marjorie. By 8:55 a.m., I walked into the courthouse with a folder of emails and the prescription bottle sealed in a plastic bag. Dana met me at the metal detectors and took one look at my face. They showed up? She asked. Last night, I said. Dana's jaw tightened. Good. That helps. Ethan was already there with Marjorie and their attorney. Marjorie wore pearls like armor. Ethan looked like he hadn't slept in days. The courtroom was small and ugly. The judge was a woman with tired eyes who'd clearly heard 1,000 versions of, I'm doing this for the child. Marjorie's attorney went first, painting me as unstable, dramatic, difficult. The grandmother offers a calmer environment, he said, and the father supports temporary placement. Dana stood and placed the bagged bottle on the table. Your Honor, the grandmother obtained medication for this child without the mother's knowledge and attempted to send it to school in the child's backpack. Marjorie's face tightened. It's for sleep. For a minor, the judge said sharply. Without the mother's consent? Marjorie pivoted into performance. Maya has anxiety. She's in treatment. Zoe feels her moods. I felt my cheeks burn, but I forced my voice steady. I have anxiety, I said. I'm treated. I'm stable. I've never harmed my child. Marjorie's eyes brightened like she'd been waiting for the word anxiety. See? She breathed, like the judge should clap. Dana's tone was ice. Mental health treatment is not unfitness. Secretly medicating a child is. The judge leaned forward. And what is this Brookstone Academy enrollment? Ethan stared at the floor. Marjorie's attorney tried to smile. Exploratory. For the child's future. For Monday, Dana said, sliding the email forward. The judge's eyes narrowed. Mrs. Carter? Were you planning to remove the child from her current school? Marjorie blinked innocently. Not remove. Transition. Like Zoe was a file being moved. My phone vibrated in my purse once, twice, 3 times. Court rules said don't check, but Dana's eyes flicked to it. Recess, the judge announced, rubbing her temple. 10 minutes. Dana grabbed my wrist the second we hit the hallway. If that's the school. Answer. It was 4 missed calls and a voicemail. I hit play. Maya. This is Principal Henson, he said, tight and urgent. Your husband and your mother-in-law are here with paperwork insisting they can pick Zoe up early. They're escalating. Please call us. My chest went hollow. They were trying to take her while I was in court. Dana didn't hesitate. Go, she said. I'm requesting an emergency order right now. I sprinted out of the courthouse in flats, keys shaking in my hand. On the drive, my mom called from my house. The latch on Zoe's window looks scratched, she said. Someone tried it. My grip tightened on the steering wheel until my fingers hurt. When I pulled into the school parking lot, Marjorie's SUV was already there, angled like she owned the place. Through the glass doors, I saw Zoe behind the reception counter, backpack clutched to her chest, face pale. Ethan stood beside her. Marjorie stood in front of her, and Marjorie's hand was on Zoe's shoulder again tight, claiming. I slammed my car door and ran. Before I even reached the entrance, I heard Marjorie's voice, loud enough to carry. She is coming with us, and that's final, and I knew if I didn't end this right there, in that office, in front of witnesses, I might not get my daughter back a second time. The front office went silent when I burst through the doors. Zoe saw me and made a sound that was half sob, half relief. She tried to run to me, but Marjorie's fingers tightened on her shoulder like a clamp. I didn't stop. I went straight to my daughter and wrapped her in my arms. Hands off, I said, low. Marjorie released slowly, smile, snapping back onto her face for the staff. Maya, you're upsetting her. Zoe shook against me. I told them no, she whispered. I know, I said. You did the right thing. Ethan's eyes were red and exhausted. Maya, please, he said, like he was begging me to make his life easier. Marjorie waved the notarized paper. The school must release her. The principal stepped out, jaw tight. Ma'am, you are not on the pickup list. There's an alert. We will not release Zoe to you. Marjorie's smile vanished. Excuse me? The principal didn't move. No. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, then stopped when he realized how insane he looked arguing in a school lobby. Dana rushed in behind me, phone in hand. Your Honor just issued a temporary order, she said, loud and clear. No removal from school. No medication without both parents' written consent. Grandmother has 0 authority pending the hearing. If you is knowed... Marjorie's face went blank like someone cut the power. Zoe lifted her head. Can I go home? She asked. Yes, Dana said gently. With your mom. Marjorie snapped back into control by turning on me. Her voice dropped, sharp enough to sting. You are making enemies you can't afford. I stared at her. You put pills in my child's bag, she hissed, for her stability. Stability isn't a sedative, I said. Zoe's fingers dug into my shirt. Grandma said you're sick in your head, she whispered. I swallowed the rage that rose up hot and fast. Grandma is wrong, I told her, and you don't have to carry her words. We walked out together, me holding Zoe's hand, my other hand on her backpack strap like I was physically anchoring her to me. In the car, Zoe stared out the window and asked the question that made my heart crack. Daddy doesn't want me? I took a breath. Daddy wants you, I said carefully. But Daddy is making choices to please Grandma, and that's not okay. Zoe nodded like she understood more than a 7-year-old should. Then she whispered, At Grandma's house, I'm not allowed to cry. I pulled into the driveway and sat there, hands shaking on the steering wheel, because I could suddenly see Zoe's future in that house. Quiet, controlled, punished for feeling. Dana called that afternoon. They're pushing for an emergency custody evaluation, she said. And Maya, Ethan has debt. What kind of debt? I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. Gambling, Dana said. Casino withdrawals, large, recent. My stomach dropped. The betrayal shifted shape. Ethan hadn't just folded under Marjorie's pressure. He was trapped. And Marjorie was holding the trap door. That night, my mom found a duffel bag in the garage behind paint cans, Ethan's old one. Inside were casino cards, withdrawal slips, crumpled receipts, proof, ugly, undeniable proof. And at the bottom, an envelope with Marjorie's handwriting. Brookstone first month paid. She'd already paid a deposit for Zoe's new school, without me. I took photos and sent them to Dana. Then, with my hands still shaking, I called Ethan's father, Roy. He answered like he was tired of his own life. Maya? Roy, I said. Your wife is trying to take Zoe. A long silence. Then a quiet exhale. She's doing it again. Again. My skin went cold. Again? Roy's voice dropped. She tried something like this with Kendra's first kid years ago. Kendra moved away to stop it. So Marjorie didn't just dislike me. She collected control. She hunted it. Will you tell the truth? I asked Roy. In court? Roy hesitated. And that hesitation told me exactly how Marjorie stayed powerful by exhausting everyone around her until they chose peace over honesty. I'll try, he said weakly. After I hung up, Ethan texted, Please bring Zoe to Mom's tomorrow. She's already set up a room. We can reset. Reset. Like my daughter was a device. I replied, No. If you try to take her again, I will press charges. 3 dots appeared. Then his message came through. And it wasn't Ethan's voice. It was Marjorie's mouth using Ethan's thumbs. If you do that, Mom will tell the judge everything. You won't see Zoe after Friday. My blood went cold. Because Friday was the hearing for the custody evaluation, and they weren't threatening my marriage anymore. They were threatening my motherhood. By Thursday night, my kitchen table looked like a messy detective board. Printed emails, pharmacy notes, screenshots, a timeline Dana insisted I make because courts don't run on vibes, they run on details. Zoe colored at the end of the table, humming to herself, trying to be a kid while I built a case to keep her life from getting stolen. Marjorie kept playing innocent in the most aggressive ways. She sent a bouquet of white lilies with a card, for Zoe's peace. Then she mailed Zoe a stuffed bunny with a ribbon that said, Brookstone Academy, like it was already a done deal. Zoe hugged the bunny and looked at me with careful eyes. Do I have to go there? No, I said, firm enough that my voice surprised even me. You don't have to go anywhere you don't want to. That night, my mom found the next small detail that made my skin crawl. She was cleaning Zoe's backpack and noticed a tiny black square sewn into the lining. A tracker, she whispered. I stared at it. Like, GPS? My mom nodded. People use these for luggage. My stomach twisted. A tracker wasn't a loving grandmother move. A tracker was what you use when you expect someone to run, or when you plan to take them and don't want them found. We cut it out, bagged it, and Dana picked it up like evidence in a crime show. She didn't want to lose Zoe, Dana said quietly. Even if you tried to disappear, I wasn't planning to disappear, I whispered. Dana's eyes held mine. Marjorie plans for what she would do. Friday morning came too fast. In court, Marjorie sat behind Ethan with her hands folded, face calm, like she wasn't the same woman who tried to yank my daughter out of school. Ethan looked smaller than he'd ever looked, like he'd been wrung out. The judge reviewed the guardianship document and narrowed her eyes. Mr. Carter, why did you sign this without your wife? Ethan's lips parted. He glanced back at Marjorie. She gave the tiniest nod, barely a movement, but it yanked him like a hook. I thought it would help, he said. Help what? The judge asked. Ethan swallowed. Maya has mood swings. My jaw clenched, but Dana squeezed my hand under the table to keep me still. Stillness was strategy now. Dana stood and placed the bagged tracker on the table. Your Honor, the grandmother also placed a tracking device in the child's backpack. Marjorie's face flickered surprise, anger, then control, snapping back into place. That's ridiculous, she said. I would never. Dana didn't argue. She just submitted the evidence, the pharmacy confirmation, the Brookstone enrollment email. She didn't call Marjorie names. She didn't need to. Paperwork did the screaming for her. The judge looked at Marjorie, voice sharp. Did you obtain medication for this child without the mother's consent? Marjorie tried to sound wounded. I was trying to help her sleep. Maya makes everything tense. That wasn't the question, the judge said. Marjorie's smile tightened. No, I didn't ask. The judge's face hardened. And did you attempt to remove the child from her school without a court order? Marjorie opened her mouth. Ethan spoke first. Too fast. We weren't trying to, Dana cut in. We have the principal's statement. Silence. Heavy, humiliating silence. Then the judge issued the temporary order. Zoe's primary residence stayed with me. Ethan got supervised visits at a visitation center on Saturdays. Marjorie got no contact pending further review. Relief hit me so hard, I had to grip the table to stay steady. Marjorie's face went pale, then tight. As we walked out, she leaned in close enough that only I could hear. Her voice was calm, like she was discussing groceries. You can't keep a child from her family, she whispered. I stared at her. You're not family if you make her afraid. Marjorie's smile came back, soft and terrifying. Children forget, she said. They forget quickly. That sentence followed me out of the courthouse like a shadow. At home, Zoe ran into my arms and asked, Am I staying here? Yes, I said, holding her tight. You're staying here. Zoe exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for days, then whispered, Is Grandma mad at me? Grandma's feelings are not your job, I told her. Your job is to be a kid. That night, Ethan texted, I didn't know about the tracker. I didn't know she got medication. I'm sorry. I stared at the message. Maybe he didn't know those parts, but he still signed the paper. He still stood there while Zoe cried. He still let his mom run the show. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my email and saw a new message from the loan officer, Re. Withdrawal of consent. Closing canceled. The mortgage deal was dead. And an hour later, Marjorie left a voicemail, sweet as frosting. Maya, she said. Since you want to play games, check your mailbox tomorrow. The real petition is coming. My hands went cold around my phone. Because if that hearing was just round one, what did Marjorie mean by real petition? Saturday morning, I walked to the mailbox with Zoe's hand in mine, and my mom trailing behind us like backup. Inside were 2 thick envelopes. The first was from Dana, our request for a protective order against Marjorie. Already filed, already moving. The second was from Marjorie's attorney, petition for grandparent visitation and emergency relief. Marjorie had switched tactics. If she couldn't take Zoe through Ethan, she'd try to force her way in as loving grandmother being cruelly cut off. The petition was full of pretty words: bond, tradition, family connection. It included photos of Zoe smiling at Christmas, Zoe holding cookies, Zoe on Marjorie's lap. It didn't include Zoe crying in the car after Marjorie told her, "Big girls don't whine." It didn't include the pills. It didn't include the tracker. Zoe padded into the kitchen and pointed at the folders. "Is Grandma coming back?" I knelt down. "Not unless a judge says so," I told her. "And if a judge asks you what you want, you can say the truth." Zoe nodded. Serious. "I want you," she whispered. "I don't want her rules." My throat tightened. "Then that's what we'll fight for." The next 2 weeks were a weird, exhausting mix of normal life and legal dread. Zoe went to school and dance class. I packed lunches and signed permission slips. Then I spent nights highlighting documents like my child's safety lived inside a yellow marker. Marjorie didn't stop being Marjorie. She started sending gifts with tracking numbers I didn't recognize. A neighbor mentioned a lady in pearls sitting in her car down the street one afternoon. Ethan showed up to supervised visits looking thinner every time, like guilt was finally doing what my words never could. Dana had a plan. "We're going to let Marjorie talk," she told me. "And then we're going to show the judge what she really does." The grandparent visitation hearing felt different from the first one. Marjorie walked in, confident, chin lifted, pearls on display. Her attorney spoke like he was narrating a sad documentary. A grandmother deprived, a child alienated, a mother overreacting. Then Dana stood and asked Marjorie one simple question. "Mrs. Carter, did you tell Zoe she would live with you and she wouldn't be allowed to ask for her mother?" Marjorie blinked, offended. "I never said that," Dana nodded. "So the child is lying." Marjorie's smile faltered. "Children misunderstand." Dana turned to the judge. "Your Honor, we have a recording." Marjorie's head snapped up. "Recording?" I felt my stomach twist. "I didn't have a recording." Dana did. The week before, during a supervised exchange, Ethan had brought Zoe home. Marjorie had shown up anyway, just to see her for 1 second, and tried to corner Zoe at my doorway. Dana had told me to have a small audio recorder running in the kitchen in case Marjorie performs. Marjorie performed. Dana played the clip. Marjorie's voice filled the courtroom, calm and crisp. "You'll be with me soon. Judges don't like emotional moms. Don't cry, okay? And don't ask for her at my house. It makes your dad weak." The room went silent in a way that felt like the air itself was judging her. Dana submitted the pharmacist's confirmation, the tracker, the Brookstone enrollment email, the principal's statement, and a letter from Zoe's teacher describing how Zoe's anxiety spiked after Marjorie's contact. Then Dana called Ethan. He took the stand like a man walking to his own execution. Marjorie's eyes were locked on him, warning, controlling, commanding. Dana asked him one question, gentle but sharp. "Mr. Carter, did your mother offer to pay your gambling debt if you agreed to give her access to Zoe?" Ethan's face drained of color. Marjorie's head whipped toward him. Her lips parted, shocked not that the truth existed, but that it was being said out loud. Ethan stared at his hands. Then he looked at me, eyes wet, and for the first time in this entire nightmare, he chose the child over his mother. "Yes," he said, voice breaking. "She did." A sound escaped Marjorie's throat, half gasp, half fury. Ethan kept going, like the truth finally had momentum. "She said if I didn't do it, she'd let the debt ruin me. She said Maya was unfit. She said Zoe would be better with her. I believed her because I was scared." The judge leaned forward, eyes hard. Mrs. Carter, is that accurate? Marjorie recovered fast, voice trembling with fake heartbreak. I was trying to save my son, she said, and protect my granddaughter. Dana didn't raise her voice. Saving is not medicating a child in secret, she said. Protecting is not tracking a backpack. And the judge didn't hesitate. Petition denied, she said. Protective order granted. No contact with the child for 12 months. Any attempt to contact will be treated as a violation. Marjorie's face went rigid. You can't. I can, the judge said. And I did. Outside the courtroom, Ethan stood near a vending machine, like he didn't know where he belonged anymore. When he saw me, he whispered, I'm sorry. I nodded once. I believe you're sorry, I said. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust overnight. He wiped his face, voice small. I'll do whatever it takes. It shouldn't have taken court, I said quietly. When I got home, Zoe met me at the door with her bunny tucked under her arm. Did the judge listen? She asked. Yes, I said, kneeling. And Grandma won't be bothering you for a long time. Zoe's shoulders dropped with relief. Then she looked up at me with a serious little face. Mom, she asked, if someone says they love you but they scare you, that's not love, right? No, I said, throat tight. That's not love. Zoe nodded, like she'd solved something important. Okay, she said. Can we go to the park? We went to the park. We ate fries on a bench. She laughed the way kids laugh when they feel safe enough to forget. Ethan moved into an apartment across town. Visits stayed supervised for months. Therapy became non-negotiable. The papers he signed barred Marjorie from showing up anywhere near Zoe again. Zoe still asked about her dad sometimes. Sometimes she didn't. But every night she fell asleep in her own bed, in the house where she's allowed to cry, allowed to laugh, allowed to be 7. And before you click away, I want to ask you something I still wrestle with. If a grandparent tries to control a child for their own good, would you ever let them back in after a year? Or is cutting them off completely the only real protection? Drop your answer in the comments, because I genuinely want to know where you'd draw the line. Marjorie called it family unity. I call it what it was, an attempted takeover dressed up as concern, and I learned something I wish I didn't have to learn the hard way. Love without safety isn't love. It's control wearing perfume.